Hi, welcome to Photoshop Lightroom TV. Next episode, I'm your host, Marek Mularczyk from sitetraining.co.uk, one of the UK's leading experts in Adobe certified training. I hope you enjoyed the previous episode when I was showing some really interesting tips and tricks in Photoshop and really interesting techniques for creating content in Photoshop from scratch. Now, today I've got some even more tips and tricks for you and tutorials, really interesting tutorials. There will be some contests quite soon in the next couple of weeks, and there will be some prizes, some interesting prizes, mostly books like this one, for example, Photoshop CS5 Classroom in a Book, a great book from Adobe, and some more books on it. So stick with me and let's move on to our first tutorial so we don't waste time. In the first tutorial I'm going to show you how to blend the layers to increase depth of field. Let's say you take two photographs, with one you focus on the foreground and with the other one you focus on the background. How can you merge it, doing it as quickly as possible using Photoshop to have everything in focus? Okay, so let's have a look on that. Okay, here I am in Photoshop and I'm going to show you how to blend the images together and merge them. I've got two images with different focus. The first image, depth of field 1, has got a focus on the foreground on the glass of wine. The depth of the field 02 image has a focus on the background on the beach. Now this particular image may have been shot using a tripod because I can see it's quite aligned. But we're going to merge it together anyway, in case you don't use a tripod or you use images from online libraries. The first thing to do will be to put both images in the same document on a separate layers. So I'm going to add depth of field 2 into depth of field 1. I'm just going to use the move tool and I'll just click and drag to add it here. To make sure the image is centered, I'm going to hold the shift key and I'll release the mouse button first, and then I'll release the shift key. Now I've got two images on separate layers. Okay, I can see the depth of field is different. Now I'm going to merge them together. I'm going to align them together just to make sure they're nicely aligned. So I'm going to select both layers, layer 1 and background layer. I'll go to Edit, Auto Align Layers. There's a couple of options here. In this situation, I'm just going to leave it on the auto, the default setting. I just want to align both layers together. I'll just press OK, and this will just take a couple of seconds. Photoshop will look into both layers and they all now aligned. Okay, we're almost done. This is the one more step. Now blending the layers together so everything would be in focus. With both layers selected, I'll go to Edit and Auto Blend Layers. When Auto Blend Layers dialog box opens, there are two options here. We can create a panorama or stack images. In this case, I want to stack images, want to put them both together, one on top of another, blend them, and I also want to create seamless tones and colors. And yeah, that's it. I'll just press OK. Photoshop will look into the images, calculate both layers, merge them nicely together using masks, and here you go, voila. Both layers nicely aligned, nicely merged. This is the layer on top, this is the layer on the bottom, and this is our merge feature in Photoshop, any version of Photoshop actually. Okay, now back to studio. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Now, speaking of the contests, the questions will be really difficult. The questions will test your knowledge of Photoshop and Lightroom. Okay, and there'll be more prizes. There'll be books about Photoshop, Lightroom, also books about photography, because Photoshop Lightroom TV is about anything photography and design related. Okay. One more update for you. In the end of September, so quite soon, in the next couple of weeks, we'll go into Steve Kaplan event. If you're in London, or if you are in London area at the end of September, we'll be meeting Steve Kaplan at his Photoshop CS5 event in central London. For more details, go to PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk, so you can find all the details. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to help. Send me an email. You can go to scitraining.co.uk and send me an email from there. You can also see which courses we run. And if there's anything you want to see here, if you want to learn anything, just drop me an email, scitrain.co.uk or PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk or our website, PhotoshopLightroomTV.com. Now here's another tutorial for you. This one will show you how to create a watermark symbol in Photoshop and how to blend it with the image so it's semi-transparent so you can see it through. And I will also have a tip and trick for you. I'm going to show you, what shall I show you? I'm going to show you how to create a really interesting border effect for the photographs using one of the filters. This will be a tip of the week. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. Here's another tutorial, also inside Adobe Photoshop. This time I'm going to show you how to create a copyright symbol or a copyright text and apply it to your images and make it semi-transparent so you can see through, so it doesn't get embedded in your images. I'm going to start with some text. So I've got this image open and I'll select the text tool, letter T in the tools panel on here, or you can just press T on a keyboard to select the text tool. Okay. Next step will be to select the font you want to use. I'm going to use Verdana. I'm not sure about the size yet, so I'll just make it 24 points for now. I will center the text. I'll just click here and I'll just type in my name. Okay, I'll accept that. I'll make it a bit bigger. So I'll change that to 30 points or maybe even 36. Looks good. Now I'm going to add a layer style to it. So I'll go to the bottom of the layers panel or click on the FX to add a layer style and I'll select Bevel and Emboss. Now I'll customize it a bit. Okay, so for the bevel style I'll use inner bevel. That looks good. Smooth, yeah, I'll make it smooth. Okay, don't want to use the contour, so if it's selected, deselect it. Okay, looks good. For the styles I'll leave it as fine, that looks good. Okay, good. And I'll just press OK. And I want to add one more style, the copyright logo. So I'll go to the rectangle tool. Okay, and I'll select Custom Shape Tool. And in Custom Shape Tool, if you scroll down, you find the copyright logo. So I'll just select it, and I'll click and drag, holding the Shift key to make it a perfect square. That's good. Okay, I'll move it here, and I want to add the same layer style. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hold the Alt key, and also the Option key on the Mac. I'll click on the effect in the layers panel and I'll just drag it here to edit here as well. Okay, now I'll make this layer semi-transparent. So I'm going to drag the opacity down to about 20-30%, and I'll do the same with the text layer. I'll drag the opacity down to make it semi-transparent, about the same values. And here's my cover logo. If I want to move it together, I can select both layers, put them in a group, like a folder in Photoshop. Keyboard shortcut Ctrl-G or Command-G on a Mac, or if you like using menu, layer, group, layers. This will put our layers in a group. I will rename it to copyright. Okay, and now I can move them all both together. I can easily reposition my gradient, or I can also drag and drop it between different images. So if I want to add it to another image, I'll just open another image, maybe this one here. I'll go here and I'll just drag and drop my copyright between one image and another. Very nice, very easy. That was tutorial number 2. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this tip, a Photoshop tip. I'm going to leave you with one more tip, another tip of the week. This would be a Lightroom tip. If you play with your images in Lightroom and you've made some changes to metadata information, you want to save it to a file. If you use Catalog by default and you want to save it to an XMP file, there's a keyboard shortcut for that. Windows, Control S, Mac, Command S. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching Photoshop Lightroom TV. I'm Marek Mularczyk, your host from sitetraining.co.uk, and I hope to see you next week for another show. Thank you very much. Have a great week. Bye bye.